Welcome to the Inner Loop Radio. I'm Rachel Kuntz. On this month's edition of Just Checking In, Courtney Sexton had a chance to catch up with poet Jose Padua. Let's see how it went.
Hello?
Hey, Jose, it's Courtney from the Inner Loop. How are you?
Oh, how are you? How's it going?
It's going pretty great, just Mondaying along here.
It is Monday.
How have you been? It's been a while since I saw you. You're out in Lancaster these days, right?
Yeah, we moved here. It's about almost exactly a year ago, and it's an interesting place. You can be in Lancaster City like 1 minute, and then just a couple of minutes later, you're out in this country, and there's someone in front of you in a horse and buggy. So
Right.
it's very interesting that way. It's so many different cultures and uh, uh, time zones or whatever you want to call it, just all converge here. So it's quite an interesting place to live.
Yeah, I haven't spent significant time there. I've driven through, now and again, but I imagine, you know, what to, well, I imagine there would be a lot to write about.
Oh yeah. Though, actually, I haven't started writing about here yet. Maybe if I'm the sort of writer who, like, I'll write about a place when I'm somewhere else. Like if I'm
Right.
at the beach on vacation, then I'll write about the city, and then I tend to I'd like to have a little bit of distance from my subject, and I guess in that way. But certainly there is a lot to write about here, and I will eventually be dealing with some.
Totally.
Yeah.
I get that. I always find that when I'm traveling, I get super inspired, and I want to
Yeah.
jot down all of the notes. But it's often like not about anything in my immediate environment. It's just like, oh, there was that piece that was percolating for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, no,
Like a perfect place for me to write would, if we were living in hotels, going from place to place. But I don't think my wife and kids would agree to that kind of life.
they wouldn't take to that.
No,
That's like
I don't think so. But
that's a
for me, that would be just wonderful. I just love that.
well. There's who did that? Weren't there? There are like some famous writers who have done that historically, right? Like
Uh,
didn't well, I guess Fitzgerald doesn't really count, but didn't they live in like a hotel for a while or
oh,
some
yeah, a
yeah,
lot of
or some of
writers
the
have lived in,
expats. Yeah.
yeah, and people have, lived in the Chelsea Hotel. Some friends of mine have lived there for 20 years now, and he's a writer, and though I think that they intended to stay there when they moved
Once
there,
they were
but
there. Got it.
yeah,
That's cool. Do you ever
yeah.
so how often are you back in the area in DC these days?
Uh, Usually my brother is still there, and
Okay.
so yeah, usually maybe every couple of months. So yeah, I still check things out there, and it's each time after a period away, like it seems like there's something new, something different. So it helps to get away from there and then see it with like a traveler's eyes again.
Different perspective. Yeah. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like I feel like especially these days I go away for a week and there's something different. I'm like, when did
Oh,
that building get
yeah,
there?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then again, it was
But
so really different when I lived in New York and then came back to DC, and then like all these things. There's a big bookstore called Borders, and then now it's gone again, and
not right.
all these things like no.
Totally. Well, what are you working on these days? I just finished up, I know we were talking a while ago. I just finished up my dissertation. So I'm
Yeah,
excited to
congratulations.
thank you. It's good to be done. And I'm excited to
Yeah, that's such a huge load to get off your shoulders, I imagine.
it is. And I'm excited to be able to have space or to make space for creative writing again.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But what about you? What are you working on?
Actually, right now, I've been working on a lot of fiction, specifically short
Okay.
stories. I had one recently in Air/Light, and it was a story called Mandy, and it's actually about uh, that Barry Manilow song
Yep,
"Mandy"
Randy, I know
becoming coming
it.
coming to life, and
Okay.
yeah, I really enjoyed writing that, and it's I just take this. preposterous
Yeah.
situation and take off from it. And that's a lot of times that's my process. That's what really moves me, whether in a story or poetry. Take this kind of odd proposition and then just let my own mind just make a journey out of it. And
Yeah, that's something I love about your poem.
yeah,
Like when I first read the first time I encountered your poem, I forget which book it was, but it was at the we were at the book fest in Alexandria,
oh,
um, like pre-pandemic, and
yeah,
I just you were giving a reading, and it was just the amazing way you like went from the absurd to the norm, or like you
oh,
took absurdity and like brought us into it and made it feel like, oh yes, that is how things are so
oh,
easily.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that about your style.
Oh, thanks. Well, it's one of the things that interests me the most. I like to connect the absurd, like, because I'm a like I have attention deficit disorder. I'm neurodivergent,
Sure.
Tourette syndrome, and so all these things that are just a jumble in my mind. I like to take those and connect them to things in the more quote unquote normal world, and just create this kind of portrait of this. Kind of create this chaos and somehow bring some kind of shape to it that other people might be able to
Yeah.
appreciate.
Absolutely. I was talking to Alison Weinberg the other day. She's participating in our Authors Corner program this
Oh,
year, this time around.
yeah. She's the
And
one
I
I chose for
Yes, exactly, for the
the contest.
competition.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she mentioned that you were doing some blurbs for her book, so that's super cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's something. Her blurb, her book. That was something. Her new chapbook. That's something that yeah, it really caught my attention. There's something very interesting and very calmly. And I said mentioned something about there's something punk rock about that. There's something
Totally.
about her work that's calm, at least on the surface, but then it has this underlying
Yeah,
punk rock sensibility, which I found just so cool to read, and I love that poetry, but it
totally.
really kind of smacks you in the face in some a certain way.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It does.
Yeah,
What else are you reading? I'm like I have a stack, as I usually do on my summer
no,
reading list, but I haven't
uh,
gotten to them yet. What about you?
oh, like well, I'm always scattered. It's hard to focus a lot of times, but one of the books that recently like really interested me was it's this writer. She died like in 2016. Jenny Diskey.
Okay.
There's this book called Stranger on a Train, and that's something where she's taking a trip on Amtrak across the country, but then she uh, puts in like little parts of her life growing up and all these different. It's like a mix of memoir and travelogue, and
Cool.
that's a really I really would recommend that book. And oddly enough, like she was married to a poet Ian Patterson, who is now married to uh, Olivia Lang, who wrote another book that I read a few years ago that was so interesting, The Lonely City. It's about uh, the isolation. She talks about artists like Henry
Okay.
Darger and Klaus Nomi and people like that. And that's just this other. It's also like kind of combination of cultural criticism and memoir. And
And
that's
memoir.
another book
Yeah.
that really got me, really moved me recently.
Awesome. Yeah, I've often thought about that, as a nonfiction writer predominantly.
Oh,
Uh it's always hard to, I'm like, how do I tell my story without just being like, so this is my life, so finding
no,
frames like that are I think really useful and really amazing when they're well done. So that's cool. I'll have to check that out.
yes, it's where a writer can combine their passions, the things that they're interested in, and then combine that with their own life story. I think that's always a very when I see a piece like that, it tends to draw me in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what else is going on out there? The kids are off from college, or where are they
Uh,
now?
well, my older daughter is off
Yeah,
from, but then she's off in Chicago now. She was at the Pitchfork Festival, and
nice.
yeah, that's I've really been she's really influenced me with her taste in music, gotten me listening to these noisier bands that I never used to listen to
Like
before,
who? Tell
or
me.
that I haven't listened
Or
to
yeah.
in a while, like, and only these rap artists who are just like incredible, like JPEG Mafia and
Okay.
RXK Nephew, like people that I probably wouldn't have stumbled on before to do this really edgy stuff, and it's also very inspiring as a writer because what they do, like they take, they can take any kind of weird subject. Sometimes, it's sometimes just distasteful topics, and like I think that's what the best writers should be able to do: take
Yeah.
topics that aren't always
That are
easy
uncomfortable.
and
Yeah.
uncomfortable, and make some art form out of it. That's like for me, like art it shouldn't just be like therapeutic.
Right.
It should also disturb people, and
Yeah.
I, yeah, I am, and of course I do enjoy disturbing people when I can.
Well, there,
Uh,
where would the fun be if you didn't,
oh,
disrupt things a
exactly.
little?
Yes.
Oh, amazing. Well, it's been so good to check in for a few minutes. We miss you here in DC,
Yeah.
but all right. Well, take care,
Well,
and
great to talk to you.
you too. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more literary fun. Remember to subscribe so you can get inspired, get focused, and get lit on the Inner Loop Radio.